obviously the community development is the streetscape, that has to be in here, but how about public works? Were there any questions? I was under the impression that for example, the contaminated soil removal was not going to be included in the budget in the CIP. It's this gray, the one that you got. This is the one I can read.
We're just trying to get organized over here.
Yeah,
I'll share it with Ellen.
I thought he did take that one out.
Okay. Which one, Joe, did we take out?
I thought we took out the contaminated soil removal also.
I thought we did. Well,
so can someone just remind me then how we are resolving the issue of additional storage? Because isn't that what we were going to take out the soil for?
Well, look up, you see garage rehab of $40,000. We were going to rehab the garage behind the
And there was enough, I thought we didn't have enough room in there, even if we rehabbed it.
could we ask Mr. Bailey, because he put a supplemental information in here anyway.
What was the question?
The question was, we thought if we don't move the dirt, what don't we still have a storage issue? How are you addressing your storage issue if we don't move the dirt?
You know, I was looking at this more of a village-wide storage issue, not specifically to Public Works. You know, it was just a suggestion. You know, as a matter of fact, I had some conversation with the previous village manager about this, and he was supportive of it. But like I said in my comments, that if the village board isn't supportive of it, that pile of contaminated soil can stay where it is.
So the garage rehab that's under Public Works is cost shared with Parks and Recreation, because what we're talking about doing is basically rebuilding the garage that's attached to the township hall. And will that meet your needs?
So that's what your memo is. Okay.
Mr. Paul?
So my question on that is, what about the trash cans? We got to get rid of those, in my opinion. They can't be sitting out there on our riverfront anymore.
I'm tasked with creating an alternate storage location for them by the back door against the building. We'll create a concrete pad there, you know, again, right up against the building, so that we're planning to do that this year. As a matter of fact, what I would plan to do is use a contractor from one of the more, you know, like the York Road reconstruction project.
Would you put a fence around it or a wall?
Personally, I think it should have screening around it. That's not necessarily, you know, I don't know if that was exactly what I was tasked with. It was certainly to get them away from the riverfront. And again, it's excavating that planting bed, probably putting a curb around it, around the perimeter of that with a concrete pad for them to set on.
I'd like to see it. I can't picture where you're talking about putting those, but it would seem like if they're still visible, they ought to be screened.
The resetting of the railroad paver bricks, that's the platform. Given the historic nature of that building, is there any grant opportunity you think there to help fund any of that?
I'm not so sure about something like that. We could certainly apply for it. I think we may have applied previously to ITEP. Okay. We could do that. You know, look into it.
So anything else for Public Works under the CIP?
We're taking out the contaminated soil.
Yes.
And then we are adding in the rehab of the garage, which I think is what we should do because that garage is falling apart. Yeah. And we would demand that of our residents to take care of dilapidated garages, and we should do it. We should demand it of ourselves. We should fix that.
Let's see if we should pull one. Did you have a
I don't think we should put a nickel in that garage. I think creating a campus for our vehicles over in the Public Works area. Removing the soil, putting in a pole barn that's large enough to help Ron and Ed in the same location. That structure behind here, it's going to, $40,000 to rehabilitate that garage?
80.
80.
I don't even believe that. I don't even believe that. I'd like to see a bid on that. I'd like to see a line-by-line bid on that. There's no way that you can do that for 80 grand. There's no way.
And make it look good.
$80,000 is a lot of money.
Joe.
You build a lot of garages for 80 grand.
Not a garage of that size. The structure of it, the foundation that it's sitting on is in disrepair.
But what are we going to do with it, Mike?
Tear it down.
Tear it down.
Tear it down.
I'm
Remove
with
it. Take that money, remove the dirt, put a pole barn up that's large enough to handle Ron's bus, Ed's equipment. He needs space, Ron needs space, albeit it not being a convenient spot. But that location is just, the garage is an eyesore. It's an eyesore from the river, it's an eyesore from the park, it's an eyesore from every angle, from the bridge, from the swinging bridge. I don't think it's worth putting a nickel into that building.
But it's used now, right?
Not really.
It's utilized by Parks and Rec.
Only by
For
Parks
their
and Rec.
equipment, so we need to figure out where to put all of
It's a
that.
home for the soccer nets and goals
for
and
some
balls
reason
and
we
t-ball
used it.
equipment and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I think the structure has met its useful life, and I think that to put that money into a structure that really doesn't help Ed very much, it's more to help Ron, and I want to help both of them. But I think that we have more space across the river, and having the mechanic there who can work on Ron's vehicle, just having all the resources, the fuel's there, the mechanic is there, it's better storage, it's more protected, it's a locked, fenced-in area. I just think it's a better area to keep all the village vehicles in one spot.
I would add too, I tend to agree with what you just said, Trustee Foley, but I would add too, I think we need to have a vision of what that area is going to look like.
Why does there have to be anything back there?
Well, I think that someday that should be a beautiful space.
And I think that
It's our riverfront.
I think by taking
It's
down that
not-
garage, I probably won't be around long enough to see it, but I'm a big proponent of talking further about the youth center.
Yeah,
And
well,
its life. And, I'm seeing something in here about an aluminum type roof for the youth center, and redoing the heating upstairs in the youth center. Again, we're talking about a structure that has met its useful life. I am not here to talk about tearing that down right now. I'm more interested in the garage, but I think if that garage comes down, then I think people are more likely to see the dilapidated structure that the youth center is. And I think that area could be better served. This garage that's behind us here, it occupies a very small footprint. It's hard to get into, it's hard to pull out of. He's going to have a large van. There's going to be people parking over here, village employees parking in this lot. You got the farmer's market there. What if we have to get something out of the garage and get the farmer's market going on? I just don't think that's a great spot.
Let me ask this question, because I tend to, at the Public Works facility, leaving aside the contaminated soil, let's say that the soil stays there, is there a way of redesigning that area over there that we would have room to put up the kind of structure that Mr. Foley's talking about, that we could address our storage needs over there without having to spend $110 to move the soil?
Most obvious location would be to consume part of the parking lot in the front of it. It's not, it's never full, or rarely full. But as far as the operation area, we need to keep a fairly large area for heavy equipment use, movements and that kind of stuff. The perimeter is occupied by the salt storage shed to the west. There's a brown metal storage building which is full, and then we have
structure, the tarpaulin building, right?
well, that's the salt storage building.
Okay.
And then to the would be to the south of this brown metal building that there's water and sewer pieces, repair pieces stored in there. In the winter, the chipper is stored in there. There's streetlight items stored in there. And then just to the south of that, there's this concrete structure with bins. It's really for storing stone and gravel and that kind of stuff. We de-water material also there. So then, there isn't any other real open space other than the parking lot.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
To the south of the parking lot, there's a grassy area. Is that village property or no? On the street. So just west of the driveway that would pull in. Is that lot ours or no?
I don't believe it is. I think the footprint of that parcel is really
fenced-in area.
reflective of the fence. It's probably unincorporated Riverside Township. Definitely a floodplain.
So that would not be.
I think it'd be very problematic to try to build there.
At some point, will we ever legally have to do something with the contaminated soil?
Not to my knowledge. As long as it stays where it is, that's the site it came from, and nature's reclaiming it.
And it can be redistributed amongst the site that it came from.
Right.
Can it not?
Sure.
So can it be used as sub-base for the rebuilding of a structure, i.e. backfill in a new structure on the same property?
Depends, as you probably know better than I do, but it depends upon the characteristic of the material.
Sure.
Does it have the compaction and so on and so forth. And it's contaminated, it has a variety of organic materials in it, or
So if you basically spread it around, and you put a slab on top of it, and you put a pole barn on top of it, problem solved.
So am I right that the board would like this matter investigated further?
Yes.
It looks like we need to compare the costs and the risks of doing
I
it,
think
right?
your current garage that houses the majority of your vehicles, which also houses, I believe, your NIPAS trailer is parked in there as well. So over the years, Ed's building has also become the home to other vehicles that are not public works related. And albeit they need a place, Ed is kind enough to share his space with them and make room for them, and I think that's great. But, I really think that if we're talking vehicles, all the vehicles should be in one place, and they're fueled and serviced and stored all in one area. And it just makes sense. This location back here, this garage, it's done. It's done.
So I think with the right kind of, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
I think with the right kind of plan, we could address this contaminated soil issue at the same time, because we would be able to cover and spread a massive amount of that soil out and cover it, which the EPA approves,
Totally.
covering it with concrete.
That soil can remain there and be redistributed amongst the site.
Yeah.
As long as a piece of it does not leave the site, that can be redistributed on site.
All right, so we'll look at this.
Just one more question. Then do we also want to know how much it would cost to take down the garage?
Part of this has to be dismantling of that garage. We can't leave it the way it
Garage
is.
has to go, right.
Which, to take a garage like that out, I can't imagine it being more than
Michael did it out on the
$20,000.
But then that's what you do with it. You have to plant grade, whatever you do with it. But there has to be, that's a part of this whole.
Okay.
Okay.